Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines that make our community tick. And we got one headline we got to look deep behind today on our show, and the gentleman who's here in the studio. Here's the headline. Tell me if you recognize it. Exonerated man released from prison. Now, that'd be something if we read that once in our lifetime. We'd say, oh, some guy went to prison. He didn't do the crime, but he's lost decades of his life, but at least he got released. Then you read it a second time. It's now gotten to the point we see that headline all the time. There are many people, you can't keep track of them, who spent years, decades in prison, and then later the government admits they made a mistake or they hid a mistake. They had the wrong guy. And then what happens next? That's what we're talking about today. What happens after that first headline? Exonerated man released from prison, and we say, boy, that's terrible he went. Boy, it's good he got released. What happens with all these people now when they try to rebuild their lives, and what can we do about it? Vernon Horn, welcome to WNHH-FM.
Thank you, Paul, for having me.
And I told you I was going to ask you to get so close to that mic, you're almost touching it.
Yes, sir.
We want to hear your voice nice and clear.
All right.
So, Vern, what I'm going to do is, I wasn't going to interview you today about the crime that you spent 17 years?
Yes, 17 years.
You spent 17 years, at that time more than half your life, in prison for a crime that somebody else did.
Yes,
but
sir.
I just want to tell our listeners what the crime was, so then we can talk about what happened after that. Vern Horn was arrested and charged with murder, along with two others, for a 1999 shooting at the Dixwell Deli, in which a customer was killed. And then it took all these years. He lived 2 blocks from the store. He used to go to hang out at the store. And the guy who admitted doing it got his own sentence reduced to a lot shorter than Vern's by saying that Vern was part of it too. Vern was finally ordered freed by a judge in 2018 when he was 37 years old. And what happened was the police had hidden, not released records that show it couldn't have been Vern, because the case was based on cell phone calls that they claimed were tracked to Vern. And there was evidence in the basement of a retired cop, I guess he might not have been retired at the time, who had not felt good about the prosecution, kept the records. There was a search warrant. I don't know if that word sounds familiar to you right now. And they went in her basement and found out that it couldn't have been Vern. And he still had to fight for years to get released. At the time, this is what Vern said: what took place against me by this criminal justice system is a tragedy, a crime against humanity, and an assault against justice in the United States Constitution. Oh, it was 19 years. I hope this never happens to anyone else. Well, it does. 19 years of my life were stolen from me. My daughter went without her father. I hope this does not go in vain, but rather the folks who are part of this system will learn from this mistake to better the system. Vern, you said that in 2018. You were just released from prison. You had spent more than half your life in prison. You got freed. I want to ask you today what happened next. What was the first thing you did? You look pretty happy in those pictures, by the way.
Oh, I was really happy. Thank you for saying that. I have to give a shout out to Judge Meyer, who did the right thing in helping
Jeffrey Meyer.
Jeffrey Meyer.
Well, he's a former, I think, legal aid lawyer. He's a federal judge. So yes. A lot of times these cases get prosecuted by the state. We saw that with Scott Lewis and Darcus Henry, others. And then in Scott's case, it took a federal judge to do what state police and state judge would not do.
Well, I mean, federal judges, Paul, don't have a dog in the fight. So they can, shoot the arrow straight. And that's what Judge Jeffrey Meyer did. Thank God for him. And thank God for Barack Obama appointing him in 2014.
It's funny how that all then fits.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, shout out to him, and also State's Attorney Patrick Griffin, who did the right thing.
And his predecessor used to feel that you should have to prove that you're innocent, not prove that you're not guilty, meaning that if the evidence against you was tainted, and that was the case in Scott's case, that the evidence was very tainted, and the officer who planted the evidence against Scott Lewis was a corrupt cop who was involved in the drug trade and framing people. But the prosecutor before Pat Griffin used to say to me, they're going to have to prove they were innocent, because they work with the police. We generally believe we got the bad guys. And then it took new people to look at it, but he changed his mind at the end. Scott Lewis had a co-defendant who this same prosecutor later said he served long enough. Okay, this thing was messed up.
Right.
So we're kind of So you, state prosecutor Pat Griffin, who succeeded this person, looked at your case and said, "We screwed up the guy."
Absolutely, and I salute him for that. And you know, once I got exonerated, it started being a floodgate, sort of exoneration. You know, as far as the judicial system looking at wrongful convictions, and
Whole units got set up in some states, and whole teams of lawyers devoted to. And again, I'm going to ask you, Vern, to just lean into the mic a little,
Sure.
if you don't mind. So, what was the first thought when you got out of prison? What'd you think when you saw the sunlight? When you came out, you saw your daughter.
it was I was elated. It was one of the most beautiful feelings I ever received. You know, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I knew I was going to face adversity, but it was a wonderful feeling. My attorneys, the Federal Defender's Office, Terrence Ward, and all of his great staff, they were there to support me. It was amazing. You know?
So, what did you do first after the cameras were no longer in your face and the crowds dispersed and you said goodbye to the lawyer? What was the first thing you did, looking to do after out of prison?
Well, the first thing I did was I wanted to see my daughter. That was number one. And my sisters, you know, my nieces, my nephew. And then I just wanted to, you know, sink this thing in because it seemed so unreal, you know. But that was the first thing I wanted to do, was see Isabella, you know, hold her in my arms, you know, because I always told her, you know, I promise you, you know, Daddy will, you know, prove this injustice. And it happened. So that was the first thing I wanted to do, was be with her.
Mm-hmm. Did you then have a family gathering? Did you go to a favorite place to eat? Did you go swimming? Did you go bowling? I mean, like
I did. I had an investigator who also worked in my case by the name of Bob Moss. Me and him, we did some things. We went out to eat. Went to my sister's home. You know, she cooked a good meal. We sat, you know, gathered and talked. We cried. We laughed. You know, it was.
Did you have a favorite food you were looking forward to eating?
I did have a favorite food, but you know how the prison system is. Once you go in there, you start not eating pork anymore. I wanted to come home and get some pork chops, but I stopped eating pork. So, you know, my favorite meal was spaghetti, and my sister made me some spaghetti, and I enjoyed it.
Do you stop eating pork for some reason, or just because it wasn't in prison?
I did stop eating pork. I converted to Islam.
Oh, okay. You know, Jews don't eat pork either.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah.
So you converted. What, you converted to Islam in prison? How did that happen?
Well, you know, going there, I felt like it gave me, you know, some sort of solitude. You know, I went in when I was a kid, so Islam teaches you masculinity. You know, it teaches you discipline. You know, and I was just attracted to that. You know, I wasn't attracted to the chess playing, the cars.
Was it
gossip.
early in your incarceration or later that you converted?
I converted, I believe, when I was 21.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah.
4 years in.
Yes.
No, obviously that's a story we've heard a lot about the public since Malcolm X, because he was very influential when he converted. I don't know if it was in prison, but after he'd been arrested and he became a leading Muslim figure in the country, civil rights leader. And a lot of people read his autobiography in prison and converted. There was a time in New Haven, I once wrote about this, where they would not allow the Malcolm X book to be given to prisoners while they're in prison. It was kind of interesting because Malcolm X had very tough things to say about the criminal justice system, but his entire record and the whole entire history of that book was it got people to stop committing crimes and convert to Islam and be religious and like not hurt anybody, right? But for some reason they didn't want that. They saw that as dangerous in the prison system. So how does it go about now? Are you allowed to have, where were you, in Cheshire?
I was in every level 4 facility, and you're absolutely right. The security division deter, you know, certain books from getting in.
Did you have the autobiography of Malcolm X?
Eventually, it's funny you say that, because eventually it got denied when I first had it sent in to me by the students in them at Yale. The security division shot it. I had to appeal it. They denied it.
What was their reason?
They saying that it was vulgar language.
What?
Like criminal activity.
Was there any vulgar language in prison by everybody?
Come on, Paul. You know, it's very transparent. But you know the saying, you put it in the, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book, right?
Yeah.
They'll never go to it.
So they really banned, so they didn't let you have the autobiography. Had you already converted by that point?
I did.
Okay, so
I
it wasn't
did.
that you need the book.
I
Did
did.
you ever get the book?
I did end up getting a book.
It's quite a book.
I did. It's very powerful, and it helped change my life.
So
It
when
really
did you finally get it in?
It sat in the security division, I believe, for 30 days. I had to peel it all the way to Weathersfield. And then Weathersfield...
Oh, so you appealed it. There's a
Absolutely.
process if they say no to a book.
Yes, if they say no, you got to appeal it. Then you got
So
to
here's a advice. You know how I was telling you so many prisoners now have gotten screwed by the system. They all want politicians and us journalists to look at it. And we care a lot, but we don't get to everyone because there's so many.
Right.
One way you get our attention is if they don't let you get a book like that, because that's like systemic, outrageous.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that people find out about if you let us know that. Because I remember someone did that. I wrote about it years ago.
Yeah.
So then you did an appeal. There's an appeal process.
Yes.
And what did you say in the appeal?
I basically told him in appeal that this is a book that I think not only help minorities and African Americans further evolve themselves as a better human being, but it helps all people. And I don't see any way that the autobiography is sending hate crime, etc.
But you hadn't read it yet, so you didn't know what was in it, right?
Well, I did know what was in it because sometimes in prison you can get paperback copies of books. So, you got your way of getting them. I just wanted the authentic version.
Mm-hmm.
So I did know about it.
You mean like photocopies or something?
Yeah, like that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
what happened when you appealed it?
Eventually, I won the appeal, and they released the book, and they gave me the book.
What'd you think about that? You're 21 years old. You were someone who, I'm guessing at 21, was just starting to find out about some things in the world outside of the place where you grew up, and then at a young age you're put in prison. What was it like to know that somebody said no to you in prison and you filed an appeal and you won the right to get a book? Well, did you learn any lesson from that?
I did, Paul. I learned that persistence always breaks the back of resistance.
Mm.
And that's just how I live life.
Because then you did spend a lot of years after that appealing your own incarceration.
Absolutely.
All right, you're listening to Vernon Horn. He's one of the many men about whom a headline was written, "Exonerated Man Released from Prison." That happened in 2018, but a lot has happened since. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So you had your spaghetti dinner. You were happy. It was a beautiful moment. You're finally out of prison. You're with your daughter, Isabella. Was it all happy from then on?
It wasn't. And it still isn't. I'm grateful that I'm here. Since I've been here, I haven't gotten any, assistance. So, to answer your question, it's bittersweet moments, It's not easy. It gets heavy at times, I had to fight for my freedom and to prove my innocence, and now I'm fighting another fight, to get rewarded or compensated or get help, from this injustice that was perpetrated against me. So, it get heavy at times, but I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful I'm with my daughter. I'm grateful I still got a chance, So, yeah.
So I want to ask you about specifically. So you're out. Where did you go to live after you got out?
So when I got out when I came home, I was staying with my sister for a short period of time. And, when you come out of prison, you get a different culture. And
do you get stuff? Do you get any money? Do you get any clothes, anything like that? Do they just drop you off, someone picks you up? Like if somebody's nobody to pick them up, where do they go?
Well, they did to me what they do to most inner city kids. They dropped me off instead of on Welly Avenue. They dropped me off in front of 235 Church Street and basically said, find your way. It wasn't no help. It wasn't no voucher. It wasn't a call. Do you need mental health treatment? Do you need any assistance with clothing or shelter? Until this day, I never received a call to obtain that. So it was never no help.
So did you have old clothes at your sister's house, or how did you have clothes? How'd you have food? How'd you have money?
So my the Yale students, who are some phenomenal people, there was 4 students, and they knew it was going to be hard for me, after going to prison, at the age of 17 and then, being exonerated. So what they did was they did a GoFundMe page, and it raised over $17,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate to survive off of that.
Yeah, we had the link on the Independent. I remember when you got out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that.
So what did you do with that money? That's not. It's money. It's a lot of money. It's not a lot of money.
Right.
In other words, you're not gonna. It gives you definitely some help getting started.
Right.
It doesn't get you a house. It doesn't
Right.
get you like.
Right.
So what did you do? Did you use that money to get a place to live? Did you go looking for a job?
I did. I got the money. I helped my sister out. Helped my daughter out, and I did find a place to live.
Was that in Trumbull? You said.
No, that was in. I was living in New Haven at the time. That was on State Street.
Mm-hmm. And so you had some money to get an apartment, to get some clothes and food and stuff. How long did it last? The money.
It didn't last long. You got to remember, I have a 7-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I was dispersing, and trying to share with the little I had. So it didn't last long, not at all.
So did you go looking for a job? What did you do in terms of trying to get established?
So I have been looking for a job.
I'm talking about that first stretch.
Oh, the first stretch I did, but I had no skills.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know nothing socially.
Did you have a GED? Did you graduate high school? Or?
I didn't. I'm going to get my GED now. I didn't get it when I was incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. So when you went looking for jobs, what happened? What kind of jobs did you look for?
Well, I looked for jobs at the. I went to Amazon. I also went to Rosa DeLaura's office, asked them to help me out. I didn't know how to do a resume at the time, so my attorneys helped me with that, and I pushed that through, but it was to no avail.
Did you go apply to places and didn't get the jobs?
I did.
How many places did you apply? Do you remember?
I applied at Amazon, and then I also applied at a trucking, a packing and shipping company. I can't think of the name right now.
And how did it feel? Like emotionally, what was it like? Okay, you got the attention, you got released. People were saying, yay, you hung in there. Way to go, Vernon. You got all this chance now. And then the day after or the week after, the month after, reality hits. What was it like to go to those places and get turned down, or how did you psych yourself up to keep plugging?
It was very discouraging, I started feeling insecure. I started feeling like no one cares about exonerees.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard, but I had my lawyers behind me. I had my family, encouraging me, telling me to stay strong like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still hard, but
I think what I'm hearing in between the lines, but tell me if I'm right, Vern, is that you said that it's not as simple as saying, here's some money, here's your freedom, which of course is important. You actually had supports. But I think what I heard from you, and tell me if I'm right,
yes,
is that coming out of prison after that experience of spending 19 years for something you didn't do, before you had a chance to really get your life going, that you, it might take a little more to help someone get going.
Absolutely.
You need some wings to fly.
Absolutely. And I think anyone who has a soul and a heart and a conscience will agree with me. I mean, you don't let a man who was 17 years old when you perpetrated this crime against him by putting him in prison for something he didn't do, then release him and don't give no sort of tools or mechanism for him to survive in society. That is a crime against humanity. The taxpayers, the people. We are fabric of this society. So you shouldn't turn your head and say that this individual don't need help. And, I want to say this, Paul, before I forget it. I'm speaking for me, Vernon Horn. I do, think that mental health is essential, but where I come from, if you start talking mental health, you're soft or you're mushy.
You're not the only one. Cops are that way, firefighters, yeah.
Right. But when you put a man in a cage for that long, you can't expect him to transition and think that he is completely sane.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that, then I don't know, so I'm not saying that we're not able to function, because if you look at the statistics, every exoneree here who has been released has been successful, without any help. And, thank God for that. But yeah, someone should be questioning why there's no sort of tools or mechanism.
So could you have used mental health help?
Absolutely.
Did you ask for it? Did you feel like you're not supposed to? Supposed
Well,
to suck it up?
I have seeked it, and I just haven't found the right person to communicate with. But I do deal with the person. She's a doctor. Her name is Lisa Puglisi, and she works with people that that was incarcerated that comes home, and she has been very instrumental in helping me.
How did you find her?
I found her through the Federal Defender's Office. Terrence Ward and them, like I said, they helped line certain things up for me when I was released, and she became one of the first people that I seen for my health treatment. And she has been so.
So does she treat you? Do you go talk to her about stuff?
I do speak with her. I speak with her periodically, and it's very helpful. And she also helped me to see that there's nothing wrong with seeking mental health. It's just like if you're trying to get your triceps or your biceps.
But is
big.
she not the therapist? Like you're looking for a therapist to go see regularly, or?
Absolutely. I think it's very essential that exonerees have mental health treatment.
So we're talking to Vernon Horn about what it's like after the headline, after the attention, after the big moment when someone is let out of prison, exonerated of a crime. How do you get your life back together? So Vern, tell me now about, it's been 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So you were in New Haven for a while, you're on State Street, you went for a job, you didn't get it. So what happened next?
So next I, like I said, persistence. I just kept looking, figuring out I need funds, I need support, I need help. I lost my mother and father when I was a young kid, so my support is different from others. So I just kept knocking on the door, and eventually I found. I also shout out to another exoneree by the name of Scott Lewis,
Who's been on this radio show. He was
good
the
guy
framed by the crooked cop.
Absolutely, he's an exoneree. He also helped me when I was exonerated.
What'd he do?
He gave me some funds to help me, get on my feet. He also gave me a vehicle.
He gave you a car?
Yes, absolutely. He gave me a vehicle.
What kind of car?
It was a Lexus IS 250. I never forget it. It was.
You still have it?
I don't have it. I ended up crashing it. Got totaled.
Oh no.
Yeah, but thank you for that, Scott. Yeah, shout out to Scott. He's another exoneree. He's very, good man. He helped me out. Yeah. But nothing has been.
So tell me about, because there's this. What happened over the years? Did you find a place to live? How did you pay the bills? Did you ever, how did you live?
I found. Oh, that's where I lost track. Shouting out Scott. Yeah. What happened was I found a loan company, and I asked these folks. I explained to them my situation, told them I don't want to be a part of the prison industrial complex system. I want to do the right thing. I'm trying to better myself. And they agreed to give me a loan. And that loan has been helping me.
How much did they give you?
I don't want to get into exactly the numbers of what exactly they gave me.
But when was that?
This was about, maybe I'll say, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago.
And what's the name of the place?
It's called Law Cash.
Because you and I had an interesting conversation about this before we're on the air, and I think it kind of reflects different positions in life.
Right.
Because I'm thinking when nobody's going to give you a conventional loan or money, the companies who want to come in to give you money know you're in a vulnerable position.
Right.
So I'm guessing it's going to be very high interest, and that they're going to have some way of clawing it all back, although I don't know what the collateral would have been.
Oh, absolutely. It's
But you said, what else am I going to do?
What else?
No money.
I don't have no other alternative. I had to do it. I mean, it's definitely robbery.
But did they have any collateral put down, or did you have to put up anything to get the money?
No.
So how do they get their money back if you don't pay?
That's the loss they take. That's the gamble they take. And that's the gamble they take. But that's how exonerees, are surviving now, and it's not right.
Yeah.
I believe that the legislator, it's their obligation to make sure, Paul, that we're okay during this
Yeah.
transition, and
So how much do they charge interest wise?
I'm not for sure exactly. I got the paperwork. I believe it's think it's 30%.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really horrible.
And how much have you paid any of it back yet?
No,
Okay.
I haven't.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't.
So what else? Tell me what other help, because I'm looking at your story, Vern. I'm thinking, what can we? First of all, we care about it because you're a human being,
Yes.
and also caring about other exonerees and how they can be helped. What would make a difference now? Like, how do you live? How do you use the loan to pay your rent now?
I do. I get help, from friends, and yeah, that's.
So
how
you have a roof over your head. You're not in a homeless shelter.
I'm not homeless. No, I'm not. Thank God. Thank God for that. Thank God.
And are you looking for work, or do you feel you need other help to get
I
to
am
the place where you can get to work?
I am looking for help, Paul. In fact, I reached out to numerous folks. I reached out to Gary Whitfield from the Judiciary Committee, the head, but that has been to no avail. I also reached out to Rosa DeLaura's office.
Do you know the NAACP's 1 Million Jobs campaign? That thing, we got those jobs. We got that job.
We're not going to mention the NAACP here. I like to shoot the arrow straight, and I'm not a big fan of them guys. I mean, I think that's for the rich black folk. I don't.
But they have a campaign where they got all the big employers to promise to give ex-offenders jobs.
Yeah, I believe that didn't go through, if I'm not mistaken. I thought that, in fact, I seen an individual when I was moving through New Haven the other day who told me he got denied or was questioned about being an ex-offender. So I thought that got denied. I thought. I might could be misrepresented.
Yeah.
I'm not for sure. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
We're talking to Vern Horn about what happens after the headline, exonerated man released from prison. What else should people know, Vern, about your experience?
People should know that, I am a fabric of this community. It's essential that the taxpayer asks questions why I haven't been compensated, why there's nothing intact to help exonerees, and not only exonerees, people that's coming home from prison, period. I mean, I believe it was over 1.4 billion to the criminal justice system, and where's this money going? So, I mean, it definitely needs to be something intact, Paul, to help us in some sort of mechanisms. Because, like I said, I'll say it over and over. I keep reiterating, I am a fabric of this community, and I was done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing intact, nothing. I haven't got a call from one legislator. I haven't got a call from no one saying, what is it that we can do to help you, to put your life back together. It's as if they want me to be a part of the prison industrial complex.
Some people say when they get let out and there are no opportunities, they consider going back to crime or something. I know that you'd done some minor offenses when you were a teenager. Did that ever cross your mind? You said, no way, no, I'm not going back to prison.
No. In fact, I always say I'm not going to allow anyone to trick me out of my freedom. I endure too much, to allow that to take place. And that's why, I'm reaching out to people and I'm seeking help, and I'm not afraid to ask for help, and
Then you also do, like most people have been wrongly incarcerated, like Scott Lewis, they do file lawsuits for wrongful imprisonment. I guess you have one along with one of the others or not, or just on your own?
Yeah,
Against the city of New Haven.
yeah, I do have a pending case.
What's the status of that?
Justice delayed is justice denied, right? So I'm still waiting.
Have they had any settlement talks? Do you have an attorney? Or?
I do have attorneys. It hasn't been any settlement talks.
Because you will get a settlement. I'm just hoping that it's more than what you owe the loan company.
Well, nothing is for sure in this life, right? I mean, we never know what happened. I'm just fighting another fight. I had to fight the fight to prove my innocence. Now I'm fighting to be compensated. So we don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping, that something take place. But, at this time, just waiting. But I do have pending litigation.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking to Vern Horn about his experience since being in prison. One thing is that there, as we said, a lot of people have been exonerated. They've had different kinds of experiences, right? You got, we talked about Johnny Jones, who actually, he won like millions of dollars. And so everyone was asking him for money. He tried to help as many people as he could. He moved down south, opened his own business, was quite successful.
Yes, he was.
And then he got shot dead early in the morning.
Yeah, that was a sad story.
That was sad.
Yeah, he was a good man. He helped a lot of people in his community.
Your sister was telling me just that he had a hard time saying no to anyone, you know.
Yeah,
it's
he
like
had
a lot
good
of pressure
heart.
what the money pours into you.
Yeah,
Everyone
it does.
knows about it.
It does. Johnny had a real good heart, and that was a sad story because he changed a lot of folks' life here in New Haven, Connecticut.
I guess it was his niece was telling me that he paid for her car in college and stuff.
Yeah.
And but then he got Scott Lewis, who spent 18 years, I believe it was, proving his innocence. When the FBI revealed that a crooked cop had framed him, it still took him, after that point, another 16 years till he got out. Because like you, he had to first go through the state process, then he did habeas and federal. He did succeed. He built a real estate business. He was able to help you with the car.
Absolutely.
What do you think explains why some people who have had this traumatic experience, I guess this is a larger point about trauma in life.
Yes.
Sometimes the same two siblings are in the same household with trauma, and one of them's able to move forward despite what happened, and others really need those extra supports. What have you observed about the people in the the exonerated circles who kind of get steady and those who are struggling?
Well, good question, Paul. Like I said, I believe mental health plays a big part. Some folks got more support than others. Also, not to make this Scott Lewis topic, but Scott Lewis went in prison when he was a little older, So when he got back out, he was a little, his transition was a little smoothly because he, did things. He knew how to do resumes. He had jobs. He was functioning in the community and moving.
Right. He worked at the print shop.
Exactly. So, that was okay. But to answer your question, everyone don't have adequate support. And support plays a big role.
So what's the message you want society to get? I got the overall message. We can't just forget about people after we said, oh, sorry, you shouldn't have been locked up the last 17, 19 years. What specifically would you like to see in place? Automatic mental health help, financial support, job training?
I think that it should be number one, mental health support. There should be a mechanism set up for exonerees, and not only just exonerees. Anyone who's leaving prison, you just don't drop them off on Welly Avenue and expect them to make it. So,
well, about Project More. They have a lot of programs set up there. Do you think that's doing it, or?
Like I said, I don't like to put my foot on no one's neck. I just think that things need to be revamped. We need to look at who's doing these jobs, if they're adequate or not. If they're doing it to the best of their ability, not just appointing people in positions because I know him or she know him, but rather people that are really serious about change and just not about a paycheck,
And Phil Blount writes in, peace, family. Thanks for listening, Phil Blount. I don't know if you know Phil.
Yes, that's Will. Yes, that's my brother. He just came home. He did some time in prison when he was a young guy. That's my brother there. He's also a part of the transition stage. He's doing well. He's on his way of getting his license.
So it sounds like you're really in touch with people. You aren't. How do you find each other?
Well, when I was in prison, Paul, I wasn't.
That's true. You met Scott Lewis in prison.
Yeah, I associated with, the ones that matter. I wasn't, like a sociable person, but that was one of what I consider my best friend in prison, Will, and he's a very good individual, but he's home now. It's funny, I didn't know he was tuning in.
So,
what's up, Will? Love you, bro. Keep striving.
So you say number one is mental health support.
Absolutely.
And number two would be job support or training or housing.
Yes, training, housing, but definitely mental health.
You know what's interesting? Sort of like the way that no amount of money could ever give you your life back, but the way that people can win lawsuits and settlements does help them get established if you end up prevailing.
It does. I mean,
but it's been a while, Ben. You've been out 4 years.
I've been out. Yes. I mean, it shows. I mean, look at Scott Lewis. Look at Johnny Jones. Look at Darkest Henry. Look at Sean Adams. Look at Carlito Ash. All of these folks who've been exonerated has been successful. Look at my co-defendant, Marquise Jackson.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's doing wonderful. He's he's working. He's trying to better himself as a man. I'm pretty sure it's not easy, but he's doing it. And, that's the thing. We're doing it. We're doing it. Can't no one say that these guys was exonerated and they went out here and came back to prison. And anyone who has a conscience and any sorts of intelligence will say, wow, how do they do it with no help? But we're still doing it. Shout out to all the exonerees. We still doing it, So, but someone has to question this, Paul. Someone has to say what's going on here. Someone has to knock. And I hate to say this, I'm not going to say no names, but the situation that happened in Cheshire, and I empathize with it. I think it was one of the most horrendous crimes that ever took place.
The Pettit family.
Yes, you mentioned this, so we can open the door. But he didn't know how it felt to be a victim until that horrendous crime was perpetrated against him, which was totally disgusting. But when he shouted for justice and for some kind of compensation, he was given that immediately, So, I mean, we all know it's an unfair race here, but why do Vernon Horn have to continue to fight when he already fought to prove his innocence? So I'm fighting another fight. And it takes a toll on you mentally. Like I said, looks is deceiving. It could be smoke and mirrors. I may look good, but, it gets heavy. It gets heavy, Paul.
You do look good.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate that. I hope my girlfriend says the same thing.
So before I let you go, Vern, let me talk about it now. So you had adult basic ed. How did that happen? When did you start doing that?
So I reached out to adult education because, I want my GED or my high school diploma. I just don't feel comfortable, Paul, with having a daughter and telling her, to get an education, and I didn't have mine. So that's another struggle. We're looking for my transcripts. No one can find them. I had a few folks trying to help me find them.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school at Transitional. I went to ACES for a little while.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut.
But I mean, like what part of town?
I grew up in, I was born in Franklin Street Projects, and then from there I just expanded. I just moved, but I literally grew up in Franklin Street Projects. That's where I was brought to from the hospital.
And then you also said your parents died when you were young.
Yes.
How old were you?
I was 9 when my father died, and I was 12 when my mother died.
That's rough. Who brought you up?
My sister Tanisha.
She older?
Yeah, she's older. Beautiful girl. Beautiful black queen.
So you were like run the streets? Is that how you got arrested a couple times, or what was it?
I was like your typical.
That's tough growing up with no home.
Yeah, I mean, I ran the street. I was the regular, ran around, did things, and that was that. And I was a product of my environment.
So, but now you're trying to get back into school, and before you can, you have to find your transcript?
Yes. Well,
they won't let you in the door until they can find that you went to ACES?
Well, in order for me to obtain my high school diploma, they need the transcript. So I just decided not to go that route and just take the GED. So I start that on September 5th.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you trying to get into without the GED?
I was trying to get into the high school diploma program.
Oh, and you can't get into that?
Because they can't find my transcripts anywhere. I guess they were lost in the system somewhere. So I just decided.
So how do you get isn't that what the high school program is, to get your GED, or no? Oh, no, that's to graduate high school.
That's to get the high school diploma itself.
So now you're in a GED program?
Yes.
So what is that? Is that the same place?
That's at adult regional education. That's adult education. location.
On the boulevard?
No, I'm going to the one in Shelton, Connecticut.
Oh, okay. How's that going?
It's going good. There's some great people there. Shout out to Miss Debbie. She's the director. She's been very instrumental in helping me, get this thing. And I'm going to get it,
I know you're going to get it.
I appreciate that, Paul. It means a lot. I'm going to get it, and I want to be a better human being, I want to do the right thing,
Well, we're all rooting for you, Vern.
I appreciate you so much, Paul.
And meanwhile, you came on to Dateline New Haven today because not just tell your story, but you're talking about exonerees in general.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to hope it's from your lips to God's ears that we're going to do a better job.
I appreciate you so much for having me, Paul.
I appreciate
it. And I
it.
hope someone do hear this and do something about it.
Well, step by step, we'll get there.
Curl, walk, run, right?
I'm still working on the crawl, but we'll get further. Vernon Horn, thanks for being on Dateline New Haven today. Thanks to Harry Droz for working the controls. We're going to take it out, the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass, inviting you to fly free with us all day, all night, and all weekend long. WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.